Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to go over the best picks from the 2025 fantasy football season. If you want my full 2026 upcoming rankings and tiers, be sure to stay tuned. They're coming out in the next few weeks as we approach the NFL draft season and the overall offseason. But let's take some time to just go over some of the best picks from every single round in the perfect draft from 2025. And kicking us off here in the first round, none other than Christian McCaffrey himself. Obviously, he goes in these hot streaks where one year, I think it was 2023, RB1, 2024, the year prior, RB73, injury-riddled year, and then right back to an RB1 finish this year. It's really hot or cold for him, but when he's healthy, he is a problem. Over 300 touches this year on the ground and in the air. He finished with top 8 in overall receptions among RBs, wide receivers, and tight ends. He was just a problem everywhere on the field. Some other honorable mentions are going to be Puka Nacua, another stud year. Jamar Chase was also very solid. However, at the overall wide receiver one, didn't really capitalize on that value. The first round was interesting, but it was pretty chock full of injury guys or guys that really just didn't kind of level up to their expectations. Neighbors got hurt. Justin Jefferson, total bust, probably at your wide receiver 3 spot. But yeah, in the back half of the first round, it was just disasters everywhere. Brian Thomas Jr., Nico Collins wasn't even that good as well. Just a bad start. Chase Brown, I know he was a little later, maybe in the second round, was good value. But outside of that, it was a lot of just kind of duds in the first round. But in the second round, we were golden here with the best pick is going to be Devon Achane. Finished as the RB5, but really turned it on at the end of the year. Without Tyreek Hill, he stepped up and put the team on his back, and he probably put your fantasy team on his back too. Multiple 30-point outings, just a big play waiting to happen. It will be interesting going into 2026, seeing how this offense really operates without Mike McDaniels. Obviously, Devon Achane, very successful on the outside zone scheme that McDaniel is patented for. So it'll be interesting. It's definitely a storyline to monitor going into 2026. I don't think it'll affect him too much, but it is something to make note of. Some other guys in the second round that were stars, Trey McBride, if he was going this early in your draft, absolute smash of a pick. I know Bowers was around this range. He was not very good. Just couldn't really stay healthy. Second round, really not too much value here, but Devon Achane was one of the studs in this kind of green zone for running backs. Came into the year, a lot of people worried about that nagging calf issue preseason. However, he put that behind him and finished off as the RB5. And now let's pivot away from running back here in RB3, or in round 3, excuse me. And we got JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba finished as the wide receiver 2, but let's be honest, it felt like the wide receiver 1 for most of the year. Puka missed a little bit of time, still finished as the wide receiver 1, which is nuts. However, JSN was just the epitome of consistency all year long. Double-digit points every single week, it felt like. Just kind of, whether the touchdowns came or not, he was always getting 7 or 8 receptions, so in full PPR, you were safe as they come. Great value going into the year. A lot of people worried about Sam Darnold. Could he withstand a wide receiver 1, or could he produce for a wide receiver 1? All those questions have been answered. It wasn't just Justin Jefferson. Some of the part of it is that Sam Darnold's a really good quarterback. Or another factor is that Justin Jefferson and JSN are both very good wide receivers, so both can get theirs. JSN was on an absolute tear. He's on his way to the bank to get absolutely paid pretty soon, to be probably a top 2 paid wide receiver, which he absolutely deserves. But he was an absolute smash success in round 3, maybe the best pick in all of fantasy. And in round 4, we got Devontae Adams. I know you're probably saying if you had him, he wasn't that great of a pick because he let you down in the fantasy playoffs. Obviously, pulling that hamstring was not in the cards for his fantasy production. However, on the grand scheme of things, 90% of the year, he was carrying you. He had over 17 touchdowns this year, just an absolute monster in the red zone. Felt like he was a red zone running back, like he was Zach Charbonnet almost. They were just giving him the ball whenever they were inside the 5. Just gold to your eyes. If you're playing against them, you just felt like anytime they got inside the 20-yard line, it was going to Adams, and they were successful with it. It's probably a main reason why Stafford's going to win the MVP. It's because of all those touchdowns, and he can thank Devontae Adams for a whole lot of them, especially inside the red zone. So the 2026 outlook for Adams remains unknown. We'll see how good he looks the rest of the playoffs. Obviously, coming back from the hamstring, hasn't been fully himself, but with Stafford probably coming back for one more year, Adams is going to be firmly probably in this similar range here and just screams high value. Halfway home with George Pickens in round 5, finished as the wide receiver 4. I know that's a little bit surprising considering the fact that CeeDee Lamb came back at the end of the year and Pickens kind of slowed down a bit. However, that front half of the season was just beyond dominant. He was a stud all year long. It's going to be interesting to see if Jerry is going to pay him. I mean, there's a lot of decisions that have to go for the Cowboys organization. I think you just can't let George Pickens walk out the door. However, I think if you give him the franchise tag, you're only opening yourself up for way more problems down the line. He is one of these wide receivers that, just say he has a lot of personality, so I don't think he'll take that well if they're not willing to pay him long term. But him and the fit with Dak and CD has just been perfect. Their culture seems great. Round 5, a lot of people we're passing on George Pickens. I'm not really sure. He was one of my favorite targets preseason. I just think you always bet on talent. And another thing you bet on is this Dallas defense. That's a main reason why he was so productive, is because they couldn't get any stops. So Dallas just had to keep scoring, making George Pickens the best pick of round 5. Into round 6, it is our little cover photo here to the right. Chris Olave averaged over 13 fantasy points, almost doubling his average from 2024. And that coincided with better QB play. So once they turned from Rattler to Shuck, this was just night and day for Tyler Shuck and Chris Olave. A lot of stacked touchdowns down the stretch. Multiple 2-touchdown games here for Olave. Just a big play waiting to happen, and he proves himself well for dynasty owners going forward. Olave, obviously still only 25 years old, going into the future with Tyler Shuck as your quarterback is definitely promising, so I really like Olave going into 2026. He'll be very highly ranked, probably late first, early second if I had to guess as of now. Just this offense relying on him so much. We'll see if they add any pieces in the offseason. The Saints need more weapons now that they know that they have a quarterback. I don't know if he's like a top 10 quarterback, but he's good enough to where you're not thinking quarterback in the offseason. So they're going to have to build around, get him some weapons to really see what he's all about. And by the end of the year, I mean, they just had no one else besides Olave. Juwan Johnson was the only other weapon. So don't be surprised if they get another wide receiver here, but it should only help Olave going forward. In round 7, we got Jalen Warren, one of the best values for running backs. That's usually this dead zone from like round 4 to round 7. However, Jalen Warren right before the season got paid, and that pretty much told you that he was going to be the starter, and you should have listened because Caleb Johnson, a lot of drumbeat from draft guys going into the season that he's going to be the guy from week 1. Don't worry about the preseason struggles or the lack of snaps. It seems like we should have been worrying about that because he didn't touch the field almost at all in 2025. I don't know if that's a Steelers thing or an Aaron Rodgers just wanting experienced running backs on the field, but the tag team of him and Gainwell was absolutely crushing to opponent defenses. Both him and Gainwell were very effective on the ground. Obviously, Gainwell more in the pass game, but Jalen Warren fishing as the RB19, you could have kind of built that 0 RB build and then in round 7 going with Jalen Warren. You set yourself up well to succeed in 2025, making him one of the best picks in that round 7 range, which, yes, I know Jalen Warren wasn't one of the most flashy picks. This round 7 area was just a little lull. A lot of Calvin Ridley, a lot of random guys here that disappointed. So let's get back into the juice of round 8. And that's going to be Travis Etienne. So we have a top 10 finisher here, RB9 on the season. Was one of the biggest busts in 2024, however, really turned it around in 2025. Him and Trevor Lawrence's chemistry, especially in the pass game, has just been so strong as of late. He had that massive 3-touchdown week in your playoffs or in week 15. He was just a monster down the stretch. So if you had ETN, you were likely cutting down the nets, hypothetically, in your fantasy football championship. ETN, just super effective on the ground. He goes into the offseason as an unrestricted free agent. I don't think the Jags will want to let him go. I don't think they'll really have any choice. They have to pay him. Going into the playoffs as the Jaguars, you got to try and run it back as basically as full as you can, getting all your guys back. So that makes Travis Etienne the best pick of the 8th round. And then in the 9th round, we got the QB2. The People's MVP is going to be Drake May. Time of recording, he just beat the Texans in the playoffs. He didn't play his best game, but he was playing his best game all year long for fantasy especially. Doing it in the air and on the ground. Over 400 rushing yards on the ground for Drake May. That's just what you like to see for fantasy. Top 5 quarterbacks for fantasy, only Josh Allen was the only one that was drafted before round 9. So all the other guys, the Staffords, the Caleb Williams, Drake Mays of the world, were all drafted later. It's so important that you can just wait on QB and get a great value late, or even just stash guys off the waiver wire. Guys like Jacoby Brissett were super efficient, but this is about Drake May, and he continued his dominance and is definitely the best pick from round 9. And was just kind of a plug-and-play starter for you all year long in your QB spot. And rounding us out in round 10, it's going to be Javonte Williams. Another top 10 finish, RB10 for him. people said he was washed preseason, that Jerry really didn't get a running back this offseason. All those comments were thrown in the trash after week one. He's a physical downhill runner. They love his style with Schottenheimer and this offense. Another unrestricted free agent in this running back class that is very loaded for 2026. I wouldn't see a world in which they don't bring him back. So Javonte should be going back to Dallas. And he definitely earned the money. He played super well. He played tough in the red zone. It was a 2-touchdown threat every single week. You could see it right in week one against the Eagles that you had yourself a steal with Javonte Williams. He was the bell cow from week one. There was no Jadon Blue, no Miles Sanders. All that was just ludicrous, and you just had all of Javonte Williams' workload for a top 5 offense, making him the best pick from round 10 here. And that's going to cap it off here for the round 10 best picks 1 through 10 here from 2025. Stay tuned for all of the 2026 rankings and tiers, but that is going to do it for this video. Please subscribe if you can, and peace.